Howdy, howdy! We are live on another Friday night with a brand new episode of Star Trek Picard Season 3 to talk about. It was a big episode. You might even say a jam-packed episode. They threw in everything, including the kitchen sink, right? So
including the bodies of people.
yeah, bodies of multiple famous Star Trek legends. So that's interesting.
I can't guess everything that's going to happen to Picard. I can truly say that.
Yeah, well, it is a lot to unpack. So I got Rachel here with me. I think we should go ahead and get the show started. Oh, is my people in the audience? Let me know. Like, is my video like lagging? Am I getting like real laggy?
I think you look okay to me.
Okay.
Unless we're both lagging.
Well, the beauty of live entertainment is that if anything is not perfect, someone in the comments will let you know immediately.
True.
All right. Well, let's get the show started. I'm Fathery.
I'm Rachel.
And this is Tex-Trek. Sorry, I think I'm gonna have to disable my my green screen because my computer is not behaving. We were just having this conversation.
I was like, it's coming to fruition.
I know. I jinxed myself. We were just talking off mic about how Fathery might need to replace his 2014 MacBook soon.
Well, my MacBook Air works better than my previous MacBook Pro did, so that's something to keep in mind.
Well, you're
out of sync. Which one of us is out of sync?
No, I think it's me. Hold on.
Okay.
I apologize. Let me fix this real quick. I'm just gonna sing the song. Da 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 da. Right, something like that. I should know it. I hear it every week, literally every week. I hear it twice a week because I hear it when we're going live, then I hear it again when I edit the podcast that goes out Sunday night / Monday morning. Okay, we're good to go now, right? I think. How do I look? Am I?
You look good. I see the green screen, so that's good.
Okay, I'm not phasing in and out like a poorly installed cloaking device.
No, but you were never out of sync for me, so I don't think I'm seeing whatever issue everybody else is.
Well, hopefully it looks good. Again, the beauties of live entertainment. But I'm Fathery, she's Rachel, and this is Tex-Trek. Boom.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 235th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek old and new. And tonight we're talking about Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 6, The Bounty, written by Christopher Monfette and directed by Dan Liu. And The Bounty is not to be confused with the episode Bounty, which was an episode of Star Trek Enterprise. They do that a lot, Rachel. They'll either put like the or a or something, or like make it plural or something like that.
I think there's too many episodes. There's too many episodes at this point. They're like, we're running out of titles that make sense for this franchise.
We're approaching 900, but I do appreciate them always trying to make sure they change it just a little bit, except the only time they didn't, there's a Star Trek Enterprise Season 3 episode called Anomaly, and then there's a Star Trek Discovery Season 4 episode also called Anomaly. So I think unless you name your episode Anomaly, you should really try to make it something different. And then I love, like, we have, like, the Anomaly that isn't.
There's true. We do actually have, but what about the ones that are like named the same things as movies or series? Like, well, Lower Decks kind of makes sense, but like First
Sure.
Contact and
Or there was an episode of Picard this season called The Next
oh
Generation.
yeah, that's never gonna be confusing.
Well, it was basically like this. Watching the show is kind of like watching The Next
Yeah.
Generation. So, yeah, this is a big episode. This episode 6. This was a huge one. I would say the biggest thus far in season 3.
Oh, yeah.
Before we get into it, though, I need to, as always, thank our wonderful Patreon supporters out there. That's Starfleet Boy, Cake is Eternal, Crazy Dutchy, Joanne Robertson, John Dog, Geek Filter, Olgrey Trekkie, Quarks Bar, Benginium, and our anonymous supporters. Thank each and every one of you so much. Y'all might know that we do monthly watch parties with our patrons, and we just had a fun one watching the DS9 episode Way of the Warrior. We're gonna have some more stuff coming up in April, but we haven't decided what episode we're doing. April 15th. It's going to be tax day for those of us in the United States. It's Saturday, April 15th, the next Patreon watch party. But I don't know. We've been discussing a few things. Like maybe we'll do the Hear All, Trust Nothing, the DS9 episode of Lower Decks. I really want to watch that one with people, or, because we're watching Picard, maybe we want to do one of the Row episodes, or maybe was it Legacy, I think, in season 7, where Picard thought he had a son, but it turned out that was all fake. I think that one might be topical to visit.
That's true.
Yeah, Jason Vigo. I think it was called like Legacy or Lineage or something like that.
It's something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll figure it out. But I am going to announce today that we're going to do something live April 5th on First Contact Day. Don't know exactly what, but there's going to be some celebration. I think there's going to be announcements to cover, and we also want to make like a big push for Terry Matalas to get a Star Trek Legacy show, because a lot of people are really loving Picard, and Terry and the other creatives that have worked on this season of the show have been very vocal. There is more story they want to tell, and they want to use this season as an opportunity to set up those future stories. So I don't know about people in our audience, but me, I totally advocate getting that Star Trek Legacy show, and I'd like to push for it on First Contact Day. So we'll do something live.
I'd love that. I've been loving this season, so I'd love to see more of like the story after this part of it wraps up.
Yeah, just such a fertile ground, this early 25th century, where you can pull so much from the Berman era of Star Trek, but also it's a great place to introduce, new things.
Yeah.
So, like, Captain Shaw and Sidney La Forge and Jack Crusher the second, I guess. I don't know what's like the official way to distinguish them, right? We need a middle name for the new Jack.
Junior's not right, because Jack is not his father.
What if his middle name is Renee, and then he could be Jack Renee Crusher?
Ooh, I like Renee as the middle name.
Yeah, that sounds cool, like Jack Renee Crusher. So I don't like Terry. If y'all ain't giving him a middle name yet, you can have that one. But Starfleet Sohel and I are supposed to get cameos in the Star Trek Legacy show. That's Terry Matalas promised us we'd get guest appearances. I'm sure he has no memory of mentioning that, but we're gonna hold him to that.
Just bring it up again and again, so he has no choice.
Between the two of us, we'll never not be bringing that up.
That's fair. I would also, if anyone ever promised me anything like that, I'd be like, you will never forget the promise. Regret that you made it.
Well, Rachel, I'm really eager to talk about this episode, The Bounty. I'm going to read the synopsis just to refresh it for everyone, and then kind of expand on that with some additional spoilers. But the official synopsis reads, "Now on the run, Picard and the skeleton crew of the USS Titan must break into Starfleet's most top-secret facility to expose a plot that could destroy the Federation. Picard must turn to the only soul in the galaxy who can help, an old friend." And of course, that old friend turns out to be the one and only Geordi La Forge, now a family man with 2 daughters and a Commodore in command of the Fleet Museum. But Geordi is reluctant at first, but eventually gives in to helping out his friends, and not only provides a cloaking device to the Titan, but goes along with them to install it and rescue Worf and Raffi and the newly discovered new Data, the new Soong android that we have.
Oh god, I've already forgot the name they gave him.
The M510. But I think they're going to have to come up with a better name than that.
I can't call a character that.
I've heard some things suggested online. I've heard like Data Plus, like Paramount Plus. I've also heard instead of Data Lore, calling him Data More, because he's like Data and More, I guess. Data More.
It feels like we're naming him after like Ronald D. Moore.
Kinda makes me think of like Nevermore, like the Raven, which I mean, like he does dream of crows, so maybe that does track. But yeah, they get them, but they lose Riker in the process. So we get the cliffhanger of Riker and Troy apparently captured by Vatic aboard the Shrike. So Rachel, what was your like broad thoughts and impressions on this episode? Just kind of your overall take.
I guess my overall take was like, oh my god, everything is happening. It's really interesting. Like I love the episode so much, but it's interesting comparing this to like particularly season 1 of Picard, where it was like kind of a slower show, and I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that anymore. We're like fully in, and it's like I think this is the first one we've basically seen virtually all of the like lead cast of TNG.
Yeah. This is the first time all 7 of them have been on screen in the same episode.
Yeah.
Since Star Trek Nemesis.
Yeah. That's
not even an episode. So I guess if you're gonna say,
if you're saying an episode,
then it's all good things.
Yeah,
like back 1994.
It was just so good, and it was like so much happened, but it like in a way that like it all made sense, and like it was like at the end of the episode, I was like tracking everything, keeping up with everything, and at the end I was like, oh my god, so much happened, but like it didn't actually feel like rushed in a bad way.
But yeah, it was definitely an eventful episode. Mm-hmm. I think especially after coming off of last week, where as much as I loved seeing Kryn, the Vulcan gangster, it did feel like they were really starting to pad out that side story on Metalis Prime. So yeah, it was nice to see some payoff to that and some momentum.
See everyone working off each other, like Riker and Worf like playing off each other was so good.
Yeah.
Like they're mad that things are changing, basically.
I mean, who can't relate to that? You know, we're all getting older. So, but yeah, I always loved that duo from TNG, that Riker and Worf. Just the way that like Riker can bust his balls, like no one else could ever get away with. But there's still like a friendship, and there's also like a professional partnership there. Like they like working together. They're good together. I remember what was the episode with like the Stratageum, where
I know what you mean.
Season 2.
I know what you, but I feel like that episode is named after whatever the other plot of that episode is.
But when they're doing like the war game stuff in that episode, like Riker, with like the first person he recruits to be on his ship is Worf, and then when he was thinking about accepting promotion and leaving the Enterprise to go be captain somewhere, he was like, "Well, Worf, I want to take you with me." And then Worf was like, "Yeah, sure, I'd go serve on your ship." And even in the novels, they had Worf was Riker's first pick to be his first officer on the Titan, but the reason why he doesn't go is because when Data dies in Nemesis, then Worf stays on the Enterprise with Picard, so he's not like, oh, I'm losing Data and Riker and Worf. All this.
Like,
always like that though.
To stay with this guy. Riker's bringing Troy with him, and losing Troy.
Yeah, and Troy. So
maybe not a great time to lose your therapist.
Yeah, if anything, that's when he would need her the most. I'm sure Starfleet had a great replacement on board the Enterprise. But for me in this episode, just my broad thoughts on it. It was tons of fun. I like a good feisty, heisty story. It is unquestionably my favorite episode of Star Trek Picard so far. However, I hate that I have to be torn on something in it because I love so much of it so much. But there were two things in the episode that bothered me. One much more so than the other. I kind of have the same reaction that if people remember when we were covering season 1 of Picard, Dave, who is typically here. He wasn't able to make it tonight, but my good friend Dave had a very similar dilemma when he watched the season 1 episode Nepenthe, because he loved all the Riker and Troy stuff, and he thought there were some great scenes there. But he was especially torn up over the death of Hugh. And that, he, to this day, Dave always gives the show a hard time about, killing Hugh. And he's not alone. A lot of people were also disappointed in that. I was actually okay with it, but I think I'm in the minority. So this episode is kind of like my Nepenthe, and I'll get into the big problem later, but the more minor problem is I don't know if we really needed another Soong android. And I know that's a criticism that gets lobbied around a lot, and people are probably tired of hearing that, but I know they wanted to have Brent involved in the show. It makes sense, to get all 7 of them like we were just discussing, and there is something really delightful and charming about that, but I'm couldn't they have just used Alton and Inigo Soong? Did we really need to make another Soong character, another android character? But I'm hoping this is the ultimate Soong, the final Soong.
I was like, okay, we're done now. I did appreciate one that they're we're gonna age him so we can stop doing de-aging stuff, because I hate de-aging on actors. I think it 9 times out of 10 just looks creepy.
For sure.
It either looks creepy or it doesn't, or it's like how they did Brent Spiner in the first season, where I don't think he looks creepy, but it doesn't necessarily look that much like Data. But I also kind of totally on board just to see Brent Spiner's performance, and the last where he was switching between all of them pretty I understood why they were saying is the having him say who he was to for more casual viewers. I didn't need him to say. I knew exactly who Brent Spiner was as soon as he turned the character.
That is fun to see that, and it reminds me of things like A Fistful of Datas, where he was playing so many different characters. In some ways, he's kind of like the
Masks,
oh yeah, that's another great example. Yes.
Brent Spiner's given his all.
Yeah, but I did enjoy that. I also I really love that Jack is he's a TOS is better than TNG guy. He's I like the Constitution class. I'm a Kirk's Enterprise type guy. So
I know the D is not your favorite, so you glad the D can't be there because they crashed it?
I think the D is in Hangar 12. I think the D is going to make a big appearance later, and that's why we don't.
Is it just the saucer? Half of it blew up.
Well, you can just take the secondary hull off of another Galaxy class and just pop your old saucer onto it. Yeah. I think that's what's going to happen. I think Geordi is trying to refurbish the Enterprise D.
That would make sense.
And we know these new Starfleet ships are all interconnected, despite Geordi's objection. So yeah, maybe they're oh, we're gonna have to bust out the old school ships, and that's when we're gonna have the D roll out a Hangar 12. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But my favorite thing about this episode, and the reason why this is my favorite episode of Picard so far, is just the theme of it. Is so exactly what I wanted this season in Picard. That message of, and they do spell it out, but I'm okay with that. Evolution is not an act of preservation; it's addition, and that's what I wanted.
That scene was so good.
I mean, we do live in this age of nostalgia where. It's there's so many movies and shows and things of old people oh yeah those were the days, or I'm not as young as I used to be, I'm getting too old for this shit. Just all of those things, they're always being thrown around and everything, and yeah, I think that Star Trek has always been it's a story of the human experience. I always say that, and part of that is growing old and getting older, and I think Star Trek deserves a lot of credit for allowing its heroes to age. Batman is always played by some dude in his 30s, but we saw Kirk get old. We've seen Picard get old, see them change throughout their life, just like we all do. So but and a part of that is eventually you do die and you stop, but there's a continuation. There is a quote unquote next generation that carries on after you. The beauty of Star Trek 6 to me is that at the end of Star Trek 6, they send the Enterprise off to be decommissioned, and you get the sense of accomplishment. Kirk and crew, they've done their duty, they've served their roles, and it's almost Kirk admits he's it's time for the future, for whatever comes next. Hopefully they'll be even better than we were, and when he does his final captain's log where he says where no man has gone, and then like he corrects it to the TNG phrasing of where no one has gone before. I think that's such like a great moment in Star Trek, because it's like, look, like, you know, I did the best I could, and I'm done, I'm finished, but I hope whoever comes up next can do even better than me. And that's what we're getting in Picard Season 3, and I really love that message. I also really love Snoopy McQueen for the very generous super chat, and the patience to let me finish my opening statement before I read his super chat. So thank you so much, Snoopy. But he says, Picard Season 3, Episode 6, awesome. Smooth how they brought Data and La Forge back. I like how they showed respect for canon by showing old ships. Strong agree, Snoopy, and thank you for that $5 super chat.
I kind of wanted to add on what you were saying. I felt like, especially with like while that was going on, and then like, what is Sydney's sister's name? I can't.
Alondra.
Alondra, like Sydney, Alondra, and Jack all talking. I think there was also measures of like, we're doing this to make the world better for like the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of the reminder of like, yeah, when you leave this world, your children are left behind. Like your descendant, like, or even if you don't have kids, like there's other people behind that you want to like leave the world a better place for.
I was just thinking like, oh yeah, like Worf is maybe like leaving like a, you know, a legacy for Raffi to continue. And then I'm like, oh wait, he does have a kid, doesn't he? Yeah. I'm as bad as him. I never think about him either.
No one. I was like, at some point I was like, because kids keep coming up. I was like, is no one going to be like, where's Alexander? Like,
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets mentioned at some point.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if he gets ignored the entire season. So we'll see what they do.
Oh, it would track for Worf. I love Worf, but he's not a good dad.
No, and yeah, I think everyone will agree to that. I'm a huge Worf fan, and yeah, I think he's a bad parent. But I'm okay. I don't need all of my heroes to be perfect. I like exploring their flaws. Let's explore this episode in more detail and get into our episode breakdown. Just starting off with the beginning, the opening of Vadic in pursuit of the Titan and those ships that find the transponder but no ship. And I guess that you remember that whole big rule from Deep Space Nine about changelings? Like no changeling has ever harmed another changeling. Like,
yeah, that was something I was curious about.
But these are different changelings. They're a little different.
So I was like, wow, she is just shooting people willy-nilly for no reason.
I think next week, when we have, you know, Riker and Troy in captivity, we're really going to get to learn more about who Vadic is. But I had like kind of always wished, like, you know, the people on her ship, I kind of wish they weren't like faceless minions that just talk in like these little clickety voices. Like I kind of wish they were more characters, so it'd just give her someone to like bounce off of and conversate with, and you kind of see more of, you know, who she is just by watching conversations with her. But I guess they still get a little bit of that here, where, you know, she kind of goes on a rant about her frustrations and wanting revenge against the Federation.
Yeah, and she's definitely like, except looking at this as Cake as an Eternal, some kind of, there's something up. Like, the way she's in charge of everyone, and everyone's just cool with her randomly shooting people.
Yeah, Cake is Eternal in the live audience is saying, I still think they are a slave species for the changelings. That is kind of how they operate, right? You know, they do like to enslave other entire races and then like genetically engineer them to be better subservient entities. It's really messed up. It's really, really terrible. However, like she does talk to that one and calls them ill-defined, unshapen. So it sounds like they're like really bad at shape changing, like how Odo was. Like the ones that can't impersonate Starfleet officers, they have to go like, I don't know, I guess press buttons to operate the ship. It is weird. It's very it's very weird. Whatever it is, it's not obvious. You know, everyone has like these different theories on it because it's not really spelled out anywhere. But we might get more clarification by the end of the season.
No, I'm totally curious because I have many questions about Vadic's whole deal.
Yeah, they've kept her very mysterious.
Yeah.
But I think next week, just having Riker and Troy there, if it is Troy, I mean, she might be a changeling.
Yeah, so that's why I think Troy is a changeling. That's my, like,
I
very
typically
convenient that like one, no one has turned out to be a changeling so far of the like main TNG cast, and I feel like they're gonna do one.
I'm not quite sure because I typically don't do this. I don't normally watch the clips on the Ready Room because I like to, watch like the whole episode with going in as blind as possible. And I did cheat and watch it this week. Ready Room was great, by the way. Really cool having LeVar Burton on there and Mika Burton. But in the scene that they showed, it did make me think like, okay, I think that's actually going to be real Troy. But I don't know. I could be wrong. We'll find out next week.
I haven't watched the clip yet. I probably will, but I just haven't had time.
I also saw some people talking about like, is it weird that Vatic smokes? Because I was thinking like, yeah, I don't think changelings have to breathe. Like we know they can like live in space, but they're different. They're more they're closer to a solid. They have like blood and flesh, and yeah, maybe they do need to absorb oxygen. That also means they can absorb drugs that you smoke. So
maybe it's maybe the smoke is like part of her, the way Oda would like make a drink.
Yeah, just like you have parts of yourself just like
She
float
just
off
thought it
and
looked cool.
yeah. I mean, she's a very like showy villain,
Yeah.
so she likes to cackle and spin around in her chair and stuff. So she definitely has like an aesthetic she's going for. And then on the Titan, I like that they don't draw out the Jack mystery stuff. That did kind of seem like something that they might stretch this out a bit, but it's like, oh no, they're investigating it here. Like we had a cliffhanger last week. Immediately this week's episode, Dr. Crusher is on the case, and it's aromatic syndrome, or at least aromatic related. There might be more to it. I don't remember Picard ever like going all like Jason Bourne or John Wick from his aromatic syndrome.
I don't want to get too far ahead because this involves like the very, very end of the episode, but I think something about the brains like is going to come into play.
Well, yeah, I mean, from what we know about like Picard's original body, the two things I think are unique about it is one, the very rare disease aromatic syndrome, and then two, it was a Borg at one point. Ex-Borgs are kind of a dime a dozen, though. There is that whole cube full of them.
Yeah.
So maybe it is like maybe they need aromatics. So they wanted Picard's body, and now they want Jack. I mean, yeah, maybe they need like aromatic. I don't know. But they still getting some mileage out of that 10 forward set. I think has it been in all 6 episodes? I think it has.
It maybe.
Yeah.
They're like, it's a cool set. Let's go chill here.
I mean, hey, TNG had a 10 forward. Picard has a 10 forward. But yeah, I like that they kind of did some more father-son stuff, and they hammer in the idea of like, oh yeah, like that convenient Gollum body that you got, John Luke. That was actually like
I love that. It was like, you have another one of those.
Yeah, it's like that was a one and done thing. Because this is my problem with like Picard season 1. It's like, oh, they can just like cheat death now. Like, shouldn't they throw in a line of dialogue to explain like this is like a really rare opportunity? Yeah. And Discovery actually helped them out with Dr. Colbert explaining like, oh yeah, like it worked one time and then no one could repeat it. So.
I wonder if like Discovery had to get permission to be like, you're not doing that again, right?
Yeah. All these showrunners talk to each other. It's funny. Mike McMahon says it's really great and kind of helps them out not step on each other's toes too much because they do so, like we had multiple shows have like a season finale of like, look, it's Riker on the Titan, come to rescue us, or Riker on some ship, and sometimes that, and like how many episodes have been named like Kobayashi or Kobayashi Maru or No Win Scenario just within the last couple of years.
Apparently they have a fight over using Wesley Crusher.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it was probably Lower Decks was the show that was like fighting over him.
Yeah.
But
I can see that. It made sense for me for Picard to use him first.
Sure.
Of like, he's from TNG.
I know when I saw Will Wheaton at Star Trek Mission Chicago during his panel, he said that he is dying to get on Lower Decks. That's the show he most wants to be on.
I think Wesley could be like used really well on lower decks.
But the thing that Mike McMahon said one time is like, it's cool that, I get to have like these meetings with all the other Star Trek showrunners, but it kind of sucks because they tell me what they're doing on their shows, and then it's like, oh well, I can't like enjoy watching it now because I know what's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
he feels like he that's the price of like
a monkey paw situation.
Yeah, like being a Star Trek showrunner means that he can never watch the other Star Trek shows normally anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm sure it's he's more than happy to pay that price. I think he's living the dream. But the other interesting thing about the conversation with Jack, though, at the beginning about like the aromatic syndrome stuff is, Beverly's whole motivation was like, I have to keep my son safe from his father. Just if he's in his father's life at all, it will have like these terrible repercussions. It's just too dangerous. And then it's like, oh, even if you just like kept him away from Jean-Luc Picard for his entire life, he was still going to be hit with this aromatic syndrome. So it's like there was no shielding him from the collateral damage of being in Picard's life. That's kind of tragic, but good drama. And and
I love that it's not like a, I mean, it's like a made up disease, but like it's not like a parent passing a disease on to their child is a very realistic thing to have happen.
Yeah, like, I'm only saying this because I know, like, he doesn't listen to the show, but, when I was younger, like, I like, really hurt my friend's feelings one time, because he was telling me how, like, all 4 of his grandparents had gotten, like, Alzheimer's, and I was like, man, like, are you, like, worried you'd, like, pass that on to your kids? Like, are your genes messed up? And he's like, well, I wasn't worried about that until now. like, really bothered him. But,
similar, all of my grandmas, not my grandpas. And I'm like, cool, I guess I'll deal with that when I get there.
But, that's another thing that this episode really focuses on is that, the quote-unquote next generation, they inherit both, like, the good things and the bad things. Like, we see all these beautiful Starfleet ships on display at the museum, but you also have, like, all, like, this, like, scary Section 31 stuff at the, the Daystrom Station. So it's like, you gotta take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
So happy to see Raffi and Worf on the Titan. Just those two storylines tying in together. And apparently it's been 11 years, 5 months, and 4 days since Worf has met Picard. But they've they exchange, I guess, wine or sour mead from time to time.
What is the running joke that apparently Chateau Picard is bad?
Have you ever drank it? Have you ever had like the real wine?
I have not had the real wine. Now I'm more curious.
I mean, I'm not like that knowledgeable about wine. I kind of think like all red wines taste pretty similar and all white wines taste pretty similar. I don't know the nuances, but
mead. So I was like, is it
yeah?
Taste? It's not mead. Like,
yeah, it's not mead at all. Like I don't know.
Mead is a specific type of wine. I like mead, but
But the Chateau Picard wine, I opened a bottle. I bought 2 bottles when the show premiered, and I drank one when we did the show covering the series premiere. So when I get to the series finale in a few weeks, next month.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, just have 4 weeks from today, right? April 20th, 420. My big 420 celebration will be I opened the other bottle of Chateau Picard.
That will be interesting. I forgot it was 420.
Yeah, that's when they scheduled the Picard finale. Blazin' Bev is going to be on theme for that.
They have already mentioned marijuana once, so
yeah. So that's just setting us up for it. That's how the show's going to end. They're all on like the refitted Enterprise D.
They all got hurt, and that's it's all medical marijuana.
Yeah, yeah. Blazin' Bev's gonna bust it out, pass it around, and then they're gonna sing "Blue Skies," like how the show opened with Data and Picard and "Blue Skies," and then that'll be the end.
Blue skies.
We'll see.
It feels like another meaning of blue skies there.
Well, what's going on with Seven and Raffi when they reunite here and they're just like,
this
hey,
is
you.
the thing that like I was so confused by. because I had taken Rafi saying my girlfriend broke up with me as part of her undercover thing, and then I was like,
I
oh
did
wait,
too.
are they broken up? What's
I mean,
happening?
I wanted it to be part of her undercover thing. Are they like taking a break? Because like they didn't seem to be like
They weren't
hostile or
yeah,
anything.
they
But
weren't
yeah, they
adversarial. I was genuinely confused by everything about them, and I was like, is it like if they had just said like, oh, we decided to like take a break because we both had jobs to do, that would like make sense. But there hasn't been any kind of
yeah.
explanation for
I
that.
just want them to be together. Like I wish that they
Same.
had just like enthusiastically and passionately just what cool juxtaposition would it be if you have like this reluctant hug but
Hmm.
comical hug that Dr. Crusher gives Worf, and then immediately next to that you see like this like just like they just can't contain their
Yeah.
desire to touch each other,
I
just like Raffi and Seven just like embracing, and they kiss and they hug and they hold each other like, oh my god, I thought I would never
I'm
see
gonna
you
say like
again.
I don't think this is the actor's choices. I feel like there's like a bit of weird like reluctance to have them be physical together, despite having like them together for all of last season.
Yeah, because they only kissed one time in
Yeah.
season 2.
And I know they gave like a part of I think part of the reason they gave the thing like, oh, they're not all over each other anymore because it's not, they're on the honeymoon. And I think it was partly because like this was filmed during COVID and like kissing scenes are more complicated during that. But it was just weird because I was like, they finally worked all their shit out. What do you mean they broke up and we didn't like we don't see why?
Yeah,
I
I,
am
I'm
I'm not a fan of an off-screen breakup in general. Is my
yeah, at least like explain it to
yeah.
us, or like I don't know, maybe like the writers are like, oh yeah, we don't actually like know how to write like romantic scenes between the two, or we don't have time for that, so we're just gonna be like, oh yeah, they're like kind of on the outs right now, but
I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
you could just have them be like, "Hey, honey," and like everyone be
Yeah,
like, "Oh, they're together," but like there's a job to do right now, so they're not like acting on their feelings currently.
yeah, I mean like Riker and Troy were married and all of like Star Trek Nemesis, that wasn't a problem. Like
Yeah,
uh,
I
it's weird. It's a
as someone
weird
who likes
choice.
romantic things, I was just like, "Look, Star Trek, just let people be happy and together. It's not that weird. I promise.
Do you also like the use of the word burgle?
I thought it was funny. I'll
It made
allow
me
it.
think of The Hobbit. That's like the only other time where people say like burgle. Doesn't Bilbo
Mhm.
say that in the book at one point? He's like you, I'm the
Probably. I have
burglar.
not
I'm
read
I'm
The
supposed
Hobbit
to
since
go
I was a
burgle.
child.
But yeah, Worf kind of he's like, listen, I was the one on Deep Space Nine, so let me do the recap here. But yeah, there's like
Makes
bad
sense.
blood between the changelings and between the Federation. It's kind of like I mentioned like there's like one thing I really dislike in this episode, and I don't blame the creators of the show. I think this was a decision that came from like their higher ups. It starts here when Worf is calling that Section 31 virus a Starfleet engineered virus. And then it
Mm,
continues later when he calls Section 31 a critical part of Starfleet intelligence. And that, you know, Deep Space Nine, I love Deep Space Nine, but the way Section 31 functioned on that show is it was not an official part of Starfleet. It was
no.
a rogue operation. Yes, it contained people who were in Starfleet. We didn't know how many. That was part of like the mystery of it.
Yeah.
We didn't know exactly like how high up in the Federation government they went, but they were like a separate thing. They weren't like an official they weren't like if you're an admiral in Starfleet or if you're like president of the Federation, it's not like you could like call them and like, give them orders and
Yeah, they're
stuff like
not
that.
oh my God. They're not like Navy SEALs. Like you
Yeah.
can't like
Well, I mean, maybe now they are, with how they were presented in Star Trek Into Darkness and then Star Trek Discovery Season 2. And I guess Season 1, you have literally have like a dude on the ship with a black badge, Starfleet badge on. So I guess like during the Klingon War and maybe like post Dominion War, they're like kind of brought in to be official parts of Starfleet. But
mhm.
I really prefer Section 31 as the bad guys and
I
being separate from Starfleet.
yeah, same. Cuz I don't think they work too well like one, I think they work better as like shadowy like in the
Hmm.
secrets. Like even in like a show where I'd see more of a Section 31, I was like, yeah, I want them like off the books.
That was the cool thing about Sloane is like we didn't know exactly like what resources he had or how powerful he was or but he just always seemed to be on top of his shit. So it's kind of like, man, like the mystery, like how's this guy doing this? But I don't think that's the fault of the Picard writers, though. That's a decision that's made by higher up people with
Oh, definitely.
concerned about like the entire franchise. They have big Section 31
like,
plans with Michelle Yeoh and.
It could even be weird to try to explain Section 31 very quickly to people who maybe only watch TNG.
Yeah, because I'm sure like, a lot of people went into this unfamiliar with Section 31.
Because there's definitely moments, and I don't think they're bad, but there's definitely moments like, oh, this was done for a more casual fan than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't there was a couple things I was like, I didn't need that explanation, but it's probably good it's there.
But I do love having to do some heist movie type stuff. Like,
oh yes, I'm all down for a heist always.
The plan here is like we're going to the scene of the crime where the heist already took place just to try to figure out what was stolen. Yeah, but it does kind of work as like a heist movie type thing because by the end like they basically like they steal data from Daystrom.
Yeah.
So
we stole a friend.
Speaking of Daystrom, let's talk about like all of the Daystrom stuff first, and then we'll talk about like the museum stuff. But on Daystrom Station, there's before they beam over, there's that funny moment where Worf is practicing deceit with Seven and Raffi.
Will say I like as much as I like am confused and don't like the fact they broke up. That Worf's line was really funny, so I was like, I'll allow it.
Yeah, I just that whole thing of like I've gone into combat with lovers many. It was actually like a problem with Worf if people remember with what happened with Jadzia.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, your wife almost died.
Yeah, like you disobeyed orders. Yeah, like you got that poor Cardassian informant killed. But yeah, so Worf messed up there, and I guess they kind of reference it here. But that key from Kryn, that little MacGuffin that made their break-in possible. I thought that was such a cool effect when that sonic weapon went off. I don't know if I would even call it an alarm. I think it was more like a sonic weapon because there was like threatening lethal force. But like how Worf was unaffected by it, and then Raffi and Riker, they were both like covering their ears. It makes me wonder, like, oh, do humans have like more sensitive ears than Klingons? Like, maybe. Do we have like we're like the equivalent of like we can hear like dogs, and then Klingons like don't hear as good as we do?
It might be, but I was also thinking it might just be one of because the Klingons having multiple organs things. Maybe they have like.
Worf is just like, that destroyed my eardrums, but it's okay. I have a backup pair that are about to kick in. I'll just be deaf for a few seconds, and then my secondary organs. But yeah, I don't know. This seemed really cool. It made Worf seem cool. Mm-hmm. Normally, like he's the guy like in Star Trek First Contact who's like, oh, I'm gonna throw up in 0G because like I'm TNG Worf. I like get my spine snapped in half when a barrel falls on me in the cargo bay.
God, usually every time Worf would go back to a TNG thing, they forgot he was badass.
Yeah. It's like they made him so cool on DS9, but then whenever whenever he got around those TNG people, they'd always start making fun of him.
Recently was talking to one of my brothers, and they said something about Worf being their favorite character, and then I said something about Deep Space Nine Worf, and they're like, oh, I didn't know he was on that show too. And I was like, you think Worf is badass on TNG? Yeah,
you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell him to just start watching DS9 at season 4 so he can get all the Worf stuff.
Yeah, I think I would have to give him. I'm not going to get my brother to watch 7 seasons of a show unless I trick him. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard one to get into. Just the first season doesn't have like the things that like people love most about DS9 don't really like the Defiant, the Dominion, like a lot of that stuff's not there at the beginning. I love all the characters, but the first episode isn't what made me fall in love with them. Like now I love watching Emissary because it's like, oh my god, look, it's like baby Kira and baby Bashir, but it's like, oh, I love these people because of what I see later.
Although I think I would maybe just show someone a duet and be like, look at how good.
That is true. That's out of every Star Trek season 1 that there is. That's that's gonna be like top 5 best.
Yeah.
And, TOS was amazing season 1. Lower Decks was amazing season 1. Like, there's been some good first seasons, but Duet was definitely it was very very. I would say no other Star Trek show other than, I guess, Lower Decks or the original series did anything like that great in season 1.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But as they explore Daystrom Station, it becomes obvious pretty quickly that they're dealing with Data, right? Like the Moriarty thing.
Yeah.
I got a lot of us were suspecting he would be like the security AI, but then I think when you see the Crow, it's like, oh, okay, this is Data.
So I love this scene. I loved everything with Moriarty. I was like, oh, are we done with Moriarty already? I was enjoying that. Especially because I'm a giant fan of The Nanny, too. So I love Daniel Davis anyways, outside of this role. So I was like, more, please.
And he looked great. He looked like he was, really living it up, getting to play like this, awesome presence, this big melodramatic personality.
He is it was funny watching this like in the best way. I was like, I could see like all of your like stage training coming in where you're like, I am going to give the best, biggest performance.
Andrew Hayes in the live audience says he was disappointed that Dr. Moriarty wasn't actually him, and I can see that.
I get that, but I think if he was actually him, this would have taken so much longer. With Riker had to be like, it's okay that we tricked you. Actually, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to come up with like, what are some things like Data would be dreaming of that like are being like recreated holographically? It was like the Raven, something Sherlock Holmes. Let's see if we can get like that Moriarty dude, and then I don't know. Oh, Riker it's like first meeting with Riker again. Let's do Pop Goes the Weasel. So I think it works. But
it's funny how often the Pop Goes the Weasel comes up because it comes up in Nemesis too.
Yeah, and that's another like great moment because in Nemesis he's like struggling to remember the what song was that dude humming in the holodeck the first time I met him, and so it's almost like that was like the reminder that they planted for this moment. Of course, it was a happy accident. No one when John Logan wrote the script for Nemesis, he had no idea that in 2023 there would be a third season of a show called Star Trek PICARD streaming, doing something called streaming on something called Paramount Plus. So it's like but
it used to be called CBS All Access, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, it's really good writing though when they build on top of things that weren't lined up intentionally, but you can create the illusion that they were.
The idea that what helps Riker remember is hearing the song. He's like, oh, that's the song. I also this is not my...
Yeah, I was like, I've been trying to remember this for 20 years. What the hell was the song that Data was humming? It's like, oh, it was Pop Goes the Weasel. I just had to hear that F sharp again, and it came back to me.
I follow the podcast Dura Sisters on TikTok, and this was like their like thing they noticed. Does Riker have perfect pitch? Like,
yeah,
that never come up.
He reminded me of my musician friend who actually did the Tex-Trek opening theme song that we play at the beginning of every show with me. Jill in our live audience, I saw like a couple of weeks ago you were asking, what music is this that plays here? And I forgot to respond to you, but yes, it's an original piece. But he's like that too. He's he can detect any note. He's a really good musician.
The joke that the Dura sisters made in the TikTok was, it's the future because apparently Riker has been bragging about having perfect pitch for the last 30 years.
Well, Trenton doesn't brag about it either. He's a humble dude.
Good for him. No one I've ever met with perfect pitch is like that.
But there is more talk of Section 31 here, and now that did bother me, like for reasons I mentioned earlier. However, I loved the entire sequence, just the not just like the cool weird things that they're exploring in the Daystrom Station, but Worf being like the more like zen and mellow Worf. Just, we will not be prey, we will be friendly energy. And then Riker hearing that and be like, I don't understand the world anymore. Just like, yeah, I get it.
I love that Moriarty's still acting evil and Riker's like, good, someone's the same.
Yeah, at least someone's consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the editing was really neat when they do the flashback of the first time Riker laid eyes on Data, And then we see old new android Data, or android synth hybrid, whatever.
I was thinking of where it's really well done, but it's like interesting to me because like going up to the moment, like it's Data, and I was like, oh, I figured that out like a couple minutes ago. Like,
but yeah, we have Data, we have B4. It's kind of morbid because you have like this dead android B4. You have like this, I don't know, Frankenstein Data that's never been completed, and then we have like this hologram of Alton. So it's kind of like a ghost. It's like we have like a ghost, a corpse, and a Frankenstein, like all on the same shot.
Genuine question: where is Laura's body there?
Possibly, the last we saw of Lore in TNG in Ascension
like,
Part 2.
Took them apart, right?
Yeah,
like,
not Riker, Data, I guess like essentially like death penalty to him. It's just like you're too dangerous and you're too much of an asshole, and there's no way we can stop you unless I just take you apart.
Also,
so he does.
Also, you've stolen my identity like a couple times.
Yeah. I assume that Daystrom or Starfleet or Section 31 or Alton Soong himself, one of them eventually recovered Lore for whatever purposes. I could see any of those mentioned having reasons for that. But it's basically like they were trying to continue his work. His goal was he was trying to create like the Super Soong that would have... We don't know who all's personality in there, but most of the androids we've seen before, so Data, Lore, B4... And then I love that they mention Lal, who...
I was going to say, I absolutely love that Lal was in there.
Yeah, because that's... When she died, he put her memories into his computer brain. So, yeah, it makes sense they would be able to recover. And then, like, when he put his brain into B4, so, yeah, like, she would have followed along in that process. I don't know how much Brent Spiner is going to play Lal when he's, like, switching from personalities. It'd be funny if, like, he kisses Riker, because, like, he turns back into Lal and...
As much as I'd love to see like Lal's personality, I don't know how well I don't want to see Brent Spiner do like a high pitched girly voice for that.
Oh, like when he's the whore in a fistful of Datas.
Yes.
Yeah, being all flirty with Worf. That's a little cringy how that plays today.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would rather him see like just do his normal voice and just be like Lal's personality. Because I'm thinking of, okay, this is gonna be completely random, but there's a bit that Seth Meyers does in his stand-up where he does stand-up like comedy as his wife, but he doesn't about himself. But he doesn't do a voice at all. He just starts telling jokes from her point of view, and I was like, that's what I would want, not like a weird high-pitched voice that no one actually sounds like.
And I have to admit, like I did. Like I mentioned, like I don't know if we needed like another Soong. I rolled my eyes a little bit, but if the idea here, and I think it might be like this is like the final Soong. So,
yeah,
like Alton is dead.
We promised we're done.
I don't know. Will Star Trek ever actually stop with all the Soongs? I don't know, but there's not a need after this. This is like as long as like Brent is alive and acting and wants to do Star Trek. If you ever need to use him in a show, just have this character show up and do it. And I don't want him to just like turn into like default Data, because like let Data rest in peace. He's dead. Move on. Like this, I want this to be like when the personalities finally do like merge or whatever. I want it to be like a new creature, a new entity, and give it a new name. But let's switch gears over to Daystrom, or not, away from Daystrom Station, over to the Fleet Museum. And pissed off Geordi is not happy when the Titan rolls up.
So wait, did we establish? Is this a different? Because this is a shot that's in the trailer, but we were talking about whether they had done Patrick Stewart's voice to make him happier.
Oh yeah, when he's like Geordi.
Yeah, I feel like this is pretty similar to what they use in the trailer.
Yeah. I like his initial reaction. Yeah, he's like, oh, it's my old friend Geordi. This guy's gonna help me. Because his Fleet Museum is conveniently less than an hour away from the place I was just at, but that's okay. But yeah, he's not expecting Geordi to be like all annoyed, and it makes sense. I thought that Geordi's whole objection here is like, like what the hell are you doing? You're like stealing ships. You're like running from Starfleet. You're bringing all this danger here to me and my family.
with my daughter up, Lord.
Yeah, you were putting one of my daughters in danger. Now you've come here and you're putting my other daughter in danger. Just like, what are you doing? And I like that, like, he keeps calling him John Luke. It's like, like these guys, like they're old, they're mature, they've grown since TNG. Like they kind of see
good for
Picard
them.
as more of a
I
yeah.
never see it in my high school teachers. I'm still like Mr. Holiday. Like,
I'm like that too. I'm the same way. But I think that's ballsy of Geordi, just like start calling him John. I mean, like, he's a Commodore now, so he actually like outranks all of them. Because Picard is retired, he's technically like not really a real admiral anymore. So Geordi is like the highest ranking of the TNG cast.
good for him.
Yeah, he started off at the low man on the totem pole when he's lieutenant junior grade at the helm. I do like that he has like one daughter who's an engineer and one daughter who's a pilot. So it's like both of the functions he had in TNG. Like one kid carries on each of them.
Genuine question about Geordi. Do we know who like mom is, or or who I assume his wife would be?
I hope it is not Leah Brahms, because that relationship was very creepy. It was well intended at the time, but yeah, like it's not great.
If it's Leah Brahms, I'm gonna need like a whole backstory of them actually having a relationship.
Yeah, and like they patched up the like all like the weird things of Geordi. I guess he wasn't like stalking her, but I don't know, like the making a hologram of her. Especially, we know what people do with holograms. Deep Space Nine made it abundantly clear. So yeah, that's weird.
Make it clear. I was like, we kissed once, and then I was like, this is not good, and stopped it. I promise. Like.
But it's not all like doom and gloom with Picard. There's like a warm hug with Dr. Crusher, and later we see Geordi reunite with Data, and LeVar Burton is just so good. It kind of feels like special to whoever they saved for like the last one to reintroduce. It makes me think of another engineer in Star Trek '09. The last one to show up is Scotty. So he's kind of cheated some screen time because Scotty's not in the first half of that movie, but when he does finally show up, he has like a pretty important role and a big moment with with the lead with Kirk, and I think they kind of did the same thing here with Geordi and Picard.
Are him and him and Kirk the only people who get to act off Leonard Nimoy?
Zachary Quinto does at the end.
Yeah, Zachary Quinto does at the end. I forgot about that scene.
But
that scene's really good, but I was just trying to. But of the non-Kirk, he's the only that are of the I would say the two main leads of that are.
He gets the second most screen time with Nimoy, which I'm sure Simon Pegg was thrilled to do. But here, LeVar gets a lot of good stuff to do with Patrick. They really take advantage of how great of an actor Patrick Stewart is, just in these conversational scenes. It makes me think of things like The First Duty when he's chewing out Wesley in the ready room and stuff. But a mark of a really great actor is that you other people can bounce off of you in a scene, and you not only elevate the material through your performance, but also you make your co-star's performance better too. A lot of actors on DS9 praise Avery Brooks and talk about how Cirroc Lofton, Aaron Eisenberg, so many of those guys just talk about it's amazing when you get those big moments with Avery. But Patrick Stewart also just I don't want to say he carries the show because so many people are so good in it, but he definitely.
The fact that he's the lead is a great buoy to the show because he's so phenomenal, and they all are, but there's a reason that people praise Patrick Stewart so much. He deserves it.
And I see it in our live audience. Jill is saying that the mom has to be Leia because how else would the parents agree on the names Alondra and Sydney? But I just assumed that Geordi wanted to name his daughters that, and so in both timelines, both wives were okay, I like those names too. They're good names. Maybe maybe those are Geordi's, I don't know, his aunts or something. Maybe he's naming them after someone in his family or something.
Because I thought LeVar Burton was really good, and I was I'm so sure that he's so glad he gets to act with his eyes.
Yeah, is he wearing contacts or are they CGI-ing his eyes? I wonder.
I do not know. I do not know enough about.
We'll have to see if there's any behind the scene pictures of him with like those eyes.
Yes, would be maybe their contracts enhanced by CGI. Or effects.
Okay. That would make sense. I'm sure we'll find out by the end of the season.
I still stand by the reason they have him go Geordi is they were worried that people wouldn't recognize it without the visor.
Without the visor, yeah, because like if you don't know the movies, if you only just like, oh yeah, I binged TNG on Netflix one time.
Like people would be like, did Geordi have like a twin brother that wasn't blind?
Yeah, did LeVar Burton play someone else?
Yeah, exactly. Or, I'm sorry, if a really casual fan, did the Reading Rainbow guy play someone else? Didn't he have a thing?
Rachel, what's your relationship with like the ships of Star Trek? Like me personally, like I'm like a big like ship nerd, but what about you?
Enjoy looking at the ships. The joke I tell, this is not quite true. The joke I tell is I care more about the relationships than the ships, but I do like the ships. I just don't ask me the registry numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
but, like,
Star Trek appeals to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons, and I think like
also,
so many of them
I
are.
want to see the ships go boom and like do battle. Like,
yeah,
I couldn't tell you what kind of nacelle a ship has.
Okay, yeah, I'm one of the I probably too fanatical ship nerds. I mean, like I don't like have like blueprints of, like my own ship class that I've designed or anything. But that's mainly because like I don't have like the creative talents required to do that. But
I did love this scene though. It's so cool to see them all.
Yeah, just Seven and Jack just taking like a little tour of the museum, checking out the different ships.
Using the music cues for the different shows, like
yes,
the assigned one for the Defiant, a little bit of the TNG for this and for Kirk's body. Oh, sorry, the fact they have Kirk's body is still funny to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to think of that. Like, are they when they had Kirk's body on the Daystrom Station, are they just setting up the idea like, oh look, sometimes they store bodies of important Starfleet officers here?
What I think they were doing.
Or are they trying to lay the groundwork for a William Shatner cameo or something?
Maybe William Shatner is significantly older than, like.
I mean, he's 92 years old. He just turned 92. I saw him a few weeks ago on the Star Trek cruise, and I mean, like, he's very healthy for a 92-year-old, but like he's still like he's very old. Like I don't.
Yeah. Well, he like. I feel like if they did a whole thing where they brought Kirk back to life, it wouldn't just be for a William Shatner cameo.
What if they brought him back younger? This is like Paul Wesley playing him in the 25th century. Yeah.
That'd be funny. How mad would that make Shatner?
He wouldn't watch it, so I don't think it would matter. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, like I love Jack just geeking out over the Constitution refit.
I'm trying to they use the Voyager theme here too, right?
Yeah. So we heard the themes of TOS, DS9, and they used Voyager before, like some of the stuff with like 7 of 9, and then I think Prodigy's also like used the Voyager theme. It has a lot of Voyager stuff in there with Janeway and Chakotay, obviously. But Seven's conversation to Jack about Voyager and how like that was home, and she made her name for herself further out than any of these other relics, and also like her story about like being reborn, I think probably resonates with a lot of people. I know that I'm not someone who ever had, felt like I had to like live like in the closet and have like a coming out moment or anything like that. But I do know a lot of Star Trek fans who did live like that. And I think a lot of them connect with characters, who do have kind of like these rebirth experiences like Seven had.
I'm also not someone who ever had to live in the closet, but a lot of my friends who did really relate to Seven even before she like became canonically queer like she is now.
Mm-hmm. Which is something that I don't know if they ever like seriously flirted with it. Probably not in writer's room that had to answer to Rick Berman in the 90s. But there was like some conversation and some speculation about possibly like if Seven was queer, on Voyager. And you're like Brian Fuller, when he was a writer on there before he was like creating Star Trek Discovery, he talked about how like he, as a gay man, he was, I guess, especially disturbed by they got like death threats from someone who's like, if you put gay people on Star Trek, I'm gonna come like blow up your writers' room, or like, you know, like weird stuff like that. But yeah, so it's been a long road getting from there to here, but there has been some progress. Not enough, but
I do
some.
love that finally, yeah, Seven's talked about how much Voyager is meant to her. And like I do like earlier in the season, they mentioned Kirk, and they, like at some point she's like, "You and Admiral Janeway," and I was like, "Okay, good." Like Admiral Janeway is still like part of your life, because it'd be weird if she wasn't.
And I didn't realize this until I heard Samuel of Trek Yards mention it, but this is the first time we've ever seen an Intrepid class starship in HD out of any, which is unreal. But yeah, like there was never an Intrepid, and it was never in any of the movies. It hasn't been in any of like the new shows. There was like that little model Voyager that we saw on like Admiral Janeway's desk in Prodigy, and like the little model that Seven has in her quarters on the Titan. But the actual ship itself, we've never seen in HD before in like an official Star Trek release.
It looks beautiful. I got what I wouldn't give for HD renderings of Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
Well, I think we'll get it someday when the AI upscaling is a little bit better. The HBO Max upscaled Babylon 5 and it looked good, but it wasn't quite the quality I would expect for Star Trek. So
yeah, that being said, I would rather just watch an SD if you do it the way like Buffy was done, which is very badly.
That was the worst. That was the absolute worst.
Literally the worst HD rendering I've ever seen. And I know it takes a lot of time to do it well, but like I feel like it would be worth it to just like have on streaming. Although I do wish, especially for the original series, I wish on Paramount Plus you could choose to watch it in the original or remastered.
Yeah, that's how the Blu-ray is. Like you can just toggle back and forth in the middle of the episode, which is kind of cool.
There is someone on TikTok that's watching the original series for the first time, and he was like, "This looks really good for the '60s." And we had to, I was like, inform him, like, you are not watching what they watched in the '60s.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did a good job with the remaster, and
I think it does look good. I just sometimes I'm like, I'm here for a silly, goofy time, and I want to watch Tribbles being silly.
Right. I feel bad because in the era of streaming, I normally just stream. I don't bust out the discs. But now I've seen the original series remastered more than I've seen like the original effects.
Yeah.
So next time I rewatch the original series, I'm gonna have to get the Blu-rays out.
Look how it originally looked.
But I'm always rewatching Star Trek, so I'll get back to it. I'm in Voyager. I'm like trying to finish up Voyager now, and then I'll eventually get back to the original series. I really loved Jack's line here, where Seven was like, "Oh my God, you're such your father's son." But that little pearl of wisdom. We all long for connection. We're just a little bit alone, aren't we? Stars in the same galaxy, but light years between us. Which I don't know. That sounded like a really deep, and I like that. I'm gonna start saying that. I think whenever I'm talking to cute ladies like Jerry Ryan, I'm gonna be like, we all long for connection, don't we? We're like stars in the same galaxy.
I love the idea of you saying this to Jerry Ryan, and Jerry Ryan being like, "Didn't someone say that to me?"
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. Are you one of those weird Star Trek nerds? Oh my God, get away from me! Security. No, I would be like Shaw trying to talk to Geordi. I would be like, "Oh my God, Mrs. Ryan, I love you so much. I'm such a big fan of your. Please look at my Star Trek podcast. Don't you like it? Don't you think it's like really cool?"
I like when I talk about stuff I do online, just to normal people I know, I get like flustered. I can only imagine if I met someone like actually from Star Trek, I'd be like, "Oh my God," like I don't know how to respond.
Most of them are. I've met like a few actors. You just like it like mainly it's like conventions and stuff like that. But yeah, some are more down to earth and approachable and like talking, and then some are more more reserved. I don't fault anyone for being, either way, but it is really cool when they are, fun and easy to talk to.
Yeah.
Like, just last night, for some reason, something reminded me of it. But, like, oh, yeah, like, one night on the cruise, I just happened, like, I was in the bar that Nikki DeBoer was in. And just had, like, a, brief conversation. Like, we were both trying to, like, order a drink at the same time. And it was kind of packed and kind of, like, we're, like, bumping up against next to each other. We're just, hey, how are you? Enjoying the cruise, blah, blah, blah. I'm just, like, a little quick, casual conversation. I was trying not to be, like, too weird. Like, be cool. Don't. And, but yeah, I mean... sometimes you get like those moments, but there are certain people that if I talked to, I would totally turn into Shaw talking to Geordi. What a great moment. He didn't have like a huge role in this episode, but I like that they did give him like one big significant moment here.
Yeah, same. It's funny because I was looking. He's not considered part of the lead cast, right? He's considered
Todd Stashwick. Yeah. I think he's credited as a lead, but I might be wrong.
Because I was not under the impression he was, but then I was like, he's in every episode. It's weird.
Yeah, I think him and Ed Speleers both are.
There, but
yeah, he had a lot of presence in the first couple of episodes when they were introducing him, and then I think last week and this week, now that we have more of the TNGers on board, he does kind of take a back seat, but I still like seeing him like, kind of proactive. He's like involved in the action, commanding the ship when they're doing like the rescue stuff, and then here having like the fun character moment with Geordi. And just, oh yeah, he was the engineer. He's like the big Starfleet nerd. He doesn't have a ton of respect for Picard and Riker, but he worships Geordi, who's like the big nerd on TNG.
I do love that him being like, I was like, you're mad about all their misadventures. It's like Geordi has some of his own. Like,
and the Ed Speleers, the Jack Crusher and Sydney La Forge flirtation. So you're saying you like the relationships more than the starships. Yeah. So what do you think of that?
Really, like, I don't know that it's necessarily going to go anywhere, but I did think they were cute. Like, and I just like people immediately picking up on it and being like, no, like, absolutely not.
And he's a bit of a bad boy, so he's got her like doing crime, stealing the old man's cloaking device.
He definitely has like bad boy heart of gold thing going on.
And I thought it was funny that like Alondra like didn't like it. She's like, "You're hitting on my sister. Gross. Stop." Geordi being kind of protective, like you stay away from my daughter. But I don't know. I thought it was fun. He is like the protective father. Like the whole episode was about him being like a super protective father.
I do love both. There's like someone stealing a cloaking device, and both of them realize, oh shit, it's my kid.
It's weird when it starts turning like the ship invisible, like while they're on the bridge. Like, what if someone on the Titan is like taking a shower? So they're like in the sonic shower naked, and then like all of a sudden like you see through the walls. Like that would be weird, right? It's like in The Cage when the Enterprise goes to warp and like turns like the whole ship kind of like turns see-through. They do like that dissolve of like stars over. It's like they hadn't quite figured out what the warp effect was going to be, and it was literally the first Star Trek episode ever produced. But there's some good Worf humor throughout season 3 when they are doing the rescue, and when Picard's like, "Don't worry, we're going to show up cloaked and get you on board, and then we'll leave." And then Worf's like, "Oh, yeah, you must be using superior Klingon technology."
Love that. Oh, okay. Because I saw this and I had a question. Because someone said, why didn't they steal the cloak from the Defiant? And the explanation is probably the Romulans took it back at some point.
The explanation is that Defiant with that cloaking device got blowed up.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I was like, this is the second Defiant, right?
Yeah, the Sao Paulo. So I had the same reaction when I saw it in Prodigy. I kind of like rolled my eyes. I was like, well, it's not the real Defiant. Because I love Deep Space Nine and I love Season 7. But that always bothered me that just like, oh, you had like this big sad moment where the Defiant blew up. You know what? Zero consequence. Here's a brand new Defiant. Just put some blue carpet on the floor.
I feel like they were like, we need a ship for the last episode to do battle.
Yeah, I just wish like they could have like been on like a different ship or something. Yeah. If they could have been on like, I don't know, they could have been on like one of Martok's Birds of Prey or something. I don't know.
I was like, trying to think. It's been a second since I rewatched the last season of Deep Space Nine. I was like, the Defiant didn't just like get a little damage. The Defiant blew up.
Yeah, it's literally a different ship. Now, it was the Sao Paulo, and then they had a special dispensation to rename it the Defiant and also change the registry number so that they could use the same stock footage they had of the Defiant for some of the special effects shots. But what? That's
You know what?
water under the bridge. I got over that.
Like,
24 years ago. It's okay. I do want Star Trek to retire that trope of like, oh look, we blew up our ship. No worries, here's a brand new one. Like Star Trek Beyond. Like I feel like after Star Trek Beyond, let's not do that anymore, or at least take a break from doing that. That was a cool thing about like Star Trek 3 is that like at least then they had to go like an entire movie without an Enterprise.
this is true.
But the thing that Worf made me think of in this episode is what a cool bragging point for Klingons when they could be like, you know what, the Federation, y'all would have been so screwed without us because if Kirk and Spock didn't have a Klingon bird of prey to go back in time and steal those humpback whales from 1986, then y'all would have been wiped out by that probe. So thank God that y'all had some superior Klingon technology. That's probably something that's brought up a lot. I bet, Klingons love to brag, so I'm sure that they'll never let the Federation forget that. That's why the bounty is in the museum.
Every time there's blood wine involved, it comes up.
Totally. I like seeing Action Riker, when he's trying to buy them time to get everyone beamed aboard. And, in his mind, he's like, oh my God, it's our old friend Data, and we can save him and stuff. So he thinks he's being, cool and heroic, and, of course, gets tagged and captured. But yeah, so we lose Riker, but, in this episode, they add Worf, Raffi, and the new Data, Neo Data, I don't know, Data More, whatever we're going to call him, Data Plus.
we gotta come up. They've got to come up with a name soon.
Yeah, we'll see what they call him in the next episode, I suppose. But Worf does pledge to go get Riker, so I'm sure there's going to be some big action set piece in either the next episode or the one after that, where we'll see Worf. He had that cool line to Picard. I will find him, Admiral. I will bring William Riker home, and fearful be the god or man or beast that stands in my way. And Picard's like, shit, I believe it.
He's like, glad this dude's on my side.
Yeah. That the ending, we kind of get that talk with Jack, a little bit of closure on Jack goes from being bitter that he inherited this disease from his dad, but also being like, oh, I got a lot of really cool traits from you. I feel like he's pilot on a little bit when he's like, I'm quite clever and really wise and very brave, and I was like, Jesus, Jack, don't break your arm patting yourself on the shoulder there, but
A little humble brag going on.
Yeah,
he's trying to make his dad feel better.
He also just found out he has a terminal disease, so I'll cut him a break.
Yeah, terminal disease, trying to make his dad not feel as bad about giving him said terminal disease.
Yeah. But there's also some parent bonding, some parent-child bonding with Geordi, and both Alondra and Sydney kind of help him get Data up and running, and Geordi does change his mind really quick. He goes from being very adamant about John Luke, I wish I could help you, but I can't, and then all of a sudden he's rolling up his sleeves where's that cloaking device? Let's get this thing working and stuff. But
I feel like Sydney is what changed his mind.
Absolutely. The reason why I buy it is because Sydney had that conversation when she's like, no, they are my family, and you taught me that. And then when he admits, I was frustrated at myself because, I knew the right thing to do, but I didn't want to admit it to it. And
I'm guessing Sydney is supposed to be about the same age as Jack. They were supposed to find it age appropriate that they're flirting. So I'm guessing it's pretty new to him that Sydney's an adult.
Yeah, I'm assuming they're both born shortly after Star Trek Nemesis, so I think they're around 21.
Who's older of the sisters?
Sydney seems older.
That's what I was gonna yeah.
But it's possible Geordi could have been married with a kid before Nemesis, for all we know.
True, and they just didn't come up. Hell, Spock had multiple siblings he never brought up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no. When did Sulu have Demora? You know, like, but
That's
like,
a very good question.
you know, but in the Wrath of Khan, Demora is probably in like 8th grade. You know, so
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's all off screen. We don't see it, but you know, clearly now we can retcon that in there. What was up with like the new Data having like the R2D2 projector? What did you think of that?
I was like, it felt like it felt like something that was like, yeah, Data probably could have always done that, but it's hard to show in effects from the 80s.
I mean, it was convenient here for plot purposes, but
And also, okay, as soon as he said Jean-Luc Picard, did you get that that's what he was saying?
no, I didn't put that together until I rewatched
As
it.
soon as I said Jean-Luc Picard, and I maybe because I was thinking about disturbed by the fact that I'd seen Kirk's body, that I was like, he stole the body of Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah, I hadn't pieced the clues together, but you know, when I rewatched it, it was obviously you know, obvious. But yeah, what a shocker. So it's like, so I don't know, what are we thinking? Borg? Is it?
I mean, it's definitely. I am thinking Borg now, trying to bring Locutus back. We've brought up Locutus a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Or
And that is kind of part of the theme, right? You talk about like, oh yeah, like you inherit, you know, that your parents' legacy, both like the good things and the bad things. So
I also wonder if they're gonna say like something about the aromatic syndrome is like what made him such a like good choice for thing.
yeah, I mean that would explain Jack too.
Yeah, which would be like a bit of a retcon, but one that like makes sense.
There could be like a combination, like you know, Borg / aromatics and like that, and that was
I'm
because
trying to figure out why they want Jack.
yeah, like maybe something he inherited. You know, his post Borg dad passed some Borgness and aromaticness into him that I don't know. That's man, like it is morbid just looking at the representation of Picard's corpse. Yeah.
I just had this flashback to watching Logan and being like, oh god, if they do this just to Picard ever, I'm gonna cry. And I was
Yeah,
like,
well,
oh, they got around it. I was like, oh, I'm still looking at the body.
I mean, Logan also gave us, you know, Patrick Stewart dropping F-bombs. Now we have that with Picard in Star Trek too. So I guess Star Trek does follow Logan's examples from time to time.
I don't want them to follow all the examples.
I don't either. I thought I was like the only person who did not like that movie. I mean, there's
hate
good
that
stuff in
movie.
it, but
It's a good movie. I just don't need like a very sad Patrick Stewart death scene.
well, spoilers for Logan, but that's okay. That movie is like 6 or 7 years old at this point.
Her just randomly shooting like the other two. For a second, I thought it was going to be revealed that she was some ally, and then it was just Thematic, and I was like, okay, she's just crazy.
Yeah, Vatic in disguise, torturing the shit out of Riker. I'm kind of surprised that the Starfleet security guys are just like letting her just like beat up Riker, but
I couldn't. I assumed they weren't actually Starfleet security. I thought they were changelings.
oh, she's just popping more. I mean, we know that she's okay with that, so
Yeah. I kind of assumed they were compromised.
I did like Riker's, you know, his resistance when he's trying to talk shit to her, just talking shit to that masked minion. But yeah, he gets real serious real fast when he sees his Mzadi also imprisoned.
I know you're saying you don't actually think it's a changeling anymore. It's very convenient that they captured her and then captured the one who volunteered to go out and like help them was Riker.
If she's not a changeling, if she's the real Troy, they need to confirm it pretty quick.
Yes.
They need to have like Riker be like, "How do I know it's really you? Like, tell me." Like maybe he asked her something like, "Oh, like what was the first thing I told you when when we found out Thad was sick?" Or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Well, I feel like if they do, it's going to be something from TNG, or he's going to try and read her mind because apparently they can do that.
Oh yeah, she'll know immediately that he's the real deal.
Yeah.
You think that they might have been able to do something with Betazoids in the Dominion War.
True.
They should have been like screening for changelings with Betazoids. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why the Dominion targeted their planet. Maybe they were like, oh, like these people are finding us out, so let's go conquer their homeworld. Yeah. I still feel cheated. We never got like that final Luoxana DS9 episode that like showed her like, I don't know, like overthrowing the Dominion conquerors of Betazoid. Yeah. But there was a novel that I think touched on that. I'd never read it, but it's out there.
That sounds cool.
But yeah, it's another interesting cliffhanger. The show has done a really good job of like always making me eager to come back next week and find out what happens.
And I'm like, God damn it, I have to wait a week.
But they're also like meaty episodes. Like they feel like they're long, eventful episodes. Like I feel like I get like a very satisfying meal. I never feel like I was cheated or anything. I was like, oh man, like I really get what I paid for, but I can't wait to come back and get more.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this is really good, but I need the next course now.
Well, any other thoughts on the episode before we go into the Gornegg segment of the show?
This episode was so good, and I know there was a lot of Easter eggs. I like, if I'm noticing a bunch of Easter eggs, I can only like, and I'm not like an expert at catching them, so.
I guess like we didn't really talk about it a ton, but you mentioned it early on. But like the data like switching from personality to personality.
Like I said, I thought Brent Spiner did so good in that scene, and like, and like, yeah, like parts of it can like, especially if it's someone whose last name was Soong, Brent Spiner's performances can be over the top, but like, I would like Data was never super over the top, but you can like the way he says that, you're like, oh, that's Data. The way he says Geordi.
My favorite one was Lore when he just says like he had like that evil smile and he's just like, I'm Lord. Like he knows like, man, like if I just tell them I'm Lord, just like that's gonna freak them the fuck out.
Yeah.
And we know from the trailers that Lore is gonna be up to no good very soon.
I also thought it was really cool that they managed to just make us think in the trailers that like, oh yeah, it's Lore's there.
Yeah, like in like the marketing and stuff, they only said Lore. They never said like, oh, it's like
weird amalgamation of
androids. The ultimate Soong is what I like to call him, but I don't think that's catchy enough to be his name. We need like an official name for this character. Hopefully soon. That being said, it is time for this big eventful Gornegg segment of the show. A special one this week with all the goodness that they packed into this episode. Gorneggs is what we like to call the Easter eggs and jokes and continuity connections that I found in the episode that I thought were worth mentioning here. Starting off, for all of you ship nerds out there, the beginning of the episode, we have that cool trifecta of Starfleet ships on the search for the Titan, and they have some pretty cool names. We have the USS Trumbull, named after was it Doug Trumbull, who did some really groundbreaking special effects work in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, but also a ton of other cool things. There's the USS Mestral, is the Excelsior II class ship. Trumbull being the Duderstadt, like the Intrepid last week. And then there's also a Yorktown, yet another Yorktown. That's a pretty common ship name in Star Trek. But the Echelon class. So the Echelon class, they look a lot like the Stargazer from Season 2, the Sagan class. Just like, they just cut off the bottom nacelles, basically. And that's the Echelon. But as a ship nerd, I gotta say I do love that Starfleet is going back to like the round saucers instead of like the the pointy, elongated, kind of like Voyager style ships. I love like a big round saucer on a Starfleet ship because it kind of, I don't know, to me like it seems like more like advanced and like kind of weird and unique. It's like uniquely Star Trek, it doesn't look like just generic science fiction. There's actually an explanation for that I heard Doug Drexler, who did a lot of cool design work on Season 3, and the Duderstadt class is named after his recently departed wife, Dorothy Duder. But he was on Larry Nemechek's show, the Trekland Tuesday stream, I believe, a few days ago. And he was saying on there that like, oh yeah, I happen to be like a fan of the round saucers, and the reason why we start designing them our in-universe reason we decided is that like, oh, some computer simulations showed that when you have to do a saucer separation and then crash your saucer on a planet, hot drop your saucer, like Shaw put it when he's describing the events of Star Trek Generations last week. But like the round saucers do better than the elongated saucers, so they switched back to making them round again. This is cool. I'll buy that. I'll accept that. The two Echelon class ships are the Sternbach and the Cole. Sternbach being named after Rick Sternbach, who he came up with that long, stretched out, elongated design language. He designed Voyager and Prometheus and a lot of really cool ships, kind of that late 24th century era. And the Cole has got to be named after Lee Cole, is how she was credited, but her real full name, Carol Lee Cole, was a graphic designer on the motion picture, and I believe on the Wrath of Khan as well. And a lot of her design work that she did in the motion picture, Mike Okuda also worked on that or no, he didn't work on motion picture. He came in with Star Trek 4. But Mike Okuda kind of had like her job, but in later in Star Trek. So she kind of came up with like some of the design language that Mike Okuda would pick up the baton and run with. So she actually has like a pretty important legacy in the look of Star Trek. Glad to see her get some recognition here, because I think a lot of people have never heard of Carol Lee Cole. So hopefully now they'll go, I don't know, read her Memory Alpha page and appreciate some of the work that she did. There's a lot of stuff in the Daystrom Station. We see a Genesis 2 device, so I guess like someone's trying to redo the Genesis device from the Wrath of Khan. There's Kirk's body, and the text says something about Project Phoenix, so I guess possible Kirk resurrection someday, even though that seems weird to me.
Let people die.
Yeah. This whole thing about
it's one thing if you're like a prequel to have Kirk show up, but oh god.
Yeah, it's like the same episode that's like, but Data's already died twice. Well, he's back again. It's like, just the whole talk we were having about let things move on. But we got to see Worf get scared of an attack tribble. So I guess that's funny. You have to have some.
Aren't Klingons scared of normal tribbles?
Yeah. We know that he especially is not a fan of tribbles from DS9. And there's also like a display of like the Riemann Thaleron radiation weapon. Although we saw a similar device being used by Narek in season 1, episode 6, I believe, The Impossible Box. But this was something that I noticed that I don't know who else did, but Riker's mom had never had a name until this episode. When the computer is scanning them and we get like that little like bio of Will Riker on screen, it says in there that his parents are Kyle and Betty. So
interesting.
We saw Kyle in TNG, but yeah, Betty never had a name until now. So
I mean, if I remember correctly, Riker's mom had died when he was very young.
Yes, right? Yes. The Data stuff, we get like the crow. That was like the crow he dreamed of in Birthright, when he first obtained the ability to dream. Moriarty, of course, from Elementary, My Dear Data, and Ship in a Bottle. Pop Goes the Weasel from Encounter at Farpoint, and also some great looking footage of baby Brent Spiner and baby Jonathan Frakes from that episode. It's so weird, like looking at these people.
I bet that TNG had already gotten upgraded.
Oh yeah.
For this.
Well, as someone who grew up watching Star Trek, I always looked up at these people, and I always kind of think of them as like, oh, I'm like a kid, and they're like the grown-ups. So it's really jarring now to like go back and like watch Star Trek and be like, why are Riker and Data younger than me? Like that does not make sense in my brain.
I was looking actually at that clip, and I was like, am I the same age as them now? How old are they when they make this?
Early 30s, I think, both of them.
I'm not much younger than them, but I watched this as a child, so
right.
They're supposed to be adults. What do you mean? Like,
but also, I haven't heard anyone mention this either, and I'm like, did everyone forget Picard season 2 except for me? But the new android, the M510 android, M510 is how they classified the captured Borg queen in Dr. Girardi's lab in the alternate timeline we saw in Season 2, Episode 2, Penance. She was also M510. But I guess no one cared except for me, because I haven't seen anyone report on that. But yeah, M510, I don't know, because it's Daystrom, and there's the M5 computer in the original series. So M510 in the Confederation timeline, that was a captured Borg queen. In the Prime timeline, that is the new Data.
Interesting.
I also heard someone say that they saw Archer's body was preserved in Daystrom also, but I did not see that. So whoever claims that,
but I did not see that either.
Yeah, let me know where y'all are seeing that, because I don't think it's in there.
I definitely, like, I was doing dishes earlier thinking about the episode, and then I had a thought that was like the only reason they don't have Spock's body is he died in a different universe. Like, I just had this thought, and I was like, that's weird to think about.
Why do they preserve the legendary Star Trek people? Like, why are they? I don't know. It seems weird. Like, are y'all trying to clone all the Starfleet heroes or something?
I don't know. Like, it made sense to me that someone went and picked up Kirk's body, but did Kirk not have anyone even distantly related to him that wanted to I don't know, bury him?
Yeah, I read a comic where they took Kirk back to Earth, probably Iowa, to bury him, and Spock had to sneak across the neutral zone, leave Romulus, his reunification mission there, come all the way to Earth just to pay respects at the side of his dead friend's grave, and then go back to Romulus to finish his way. It was a cool comic to read. It's I would assume that something like that happened in actual canon, but maybe not.
31 shadiness. I could see them duplicating a body of some kind to be here's his body, so that people don't know that this is what's up.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the stuff in the Fleet Museum. They put a lot of cool stuff in Geordi's office, and we don't see any of it in the actual episode. There's a old school Federation flag from In the Children Shall Lead that's out of focus. Also, completely off screen, there's a Zephram Cochrane statue and a model ship of the Vulcan warp sled in the motion picture. And Kirk's Tale of Two Cities book that he gives Spock in the Rathacon. But, we can't really see any of it. The ships, though, they do show us the beauties, the ships. So we have the not real Defiant, the Sao Paulo Defiant, the New Jersey,
which is Defiant.
Yeah. The cool thing with the New Jersey is that in the episode Relics, Picard tells Scotty, "Oh, I actually visited an old Constitution starship like your Enterprise at the Fleet Museum." And now we know it was the New Jersey, NCC 1975. Probably named and numbered that because showrunner Terry Matalas was born in New Jersey in the year 1975.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense.
Also, the Enterprise A, last seen in Star Trek VI when she was on her way to be decommissioned. Voyager from Voyager, the Bounty from Star Trek IV, which also we gotta keep in mind, that's the original Klingon bird of prey. Star Trek III, when it decloaks, when Christopher Lloyd makes his first appearance in that movie, that's the first we ever saw a bird of prey, so it's the OG BOP.
God, the Klingons, I know this is because they just had the models for it, but the Klingons just stuck with that for a long time.
Yeah, 25th century, and they're still rocking it.
Yeah.
We see, speaking of Doug Drexler earlier, his refit concept that he designed for the NX-01 Enterprise from Star Trek Enterprise, he always intended for there to be a secondary hull that could be installed onto it. Never happened in that show, but it's happened on screen now. We see it here. They tease it in Season 2, the Picard family home. There was a model of the ship that little kid Picard was playing. It was actually the Eagle Moss model. But here we actually see it for real. There's also a Klingon Katinga class, maybe Kronos 1 from Star Trek 6, and we don't get good close-ups of them, but I was able to identify, in addition, a Constellation class like the Stargazer, an Akira class, Saber class, Nebula class, and Excelsior class all on display there. So that was really cool. We normally like to do like subspace transmissions and just read the feedback we get on these episodes. Our communications officer, Dave, is not here right now, so we're going to forego that segment, but I'm dying to hear what people thought of this episode. I'm sure there's like a lot of great thoughts. I want to hear people's reactions. There's a lot to talk about, so please reply to my tweets on Twitter or leave a comment on YouTube, or let us know on the Tex-Trek Facebook page. Join the Tex-Trek Discord and talk about the episode there. We might share your responses next week when we discuss Picard Season 3, Episode 7. Do you know the name of this, Rachel? Are you ready to hear it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Season 3, Episode 7, Dominion.
Oh, well, shit.
But these episodes kind of have double meanings. Like when we heard the bounty, none of us were thinking, oh, the ship from Star Trek 4. I don't think so. We'll see. But yeah, I'm as a Deep Space Nine fan, very, very eager to watch that.
Same.
So looking forward to it. Please come back, check us out Fridays at 7 p.m. Central if you want to catch us live on YouTube, or listen to the show later, wherever you get your podcast. And until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek, and follow Fathery on Twitter at txtrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.